This morning we continue our discussion and celebration of Black History Month by welcoming Dr. Keith Johnson, the chairperson for the Department of Engineering, Technology, Surveying, and Digital Media at ETSU. Doctor, welcome to Daytime.
Thank you.
You have a lot of departments that you oversee.
Yeah, it's a lot of programs there. Yeah.
Let's talk about, when we talked, we wanted to look at Black History Month and focus on African American contributions to technology and engineering, and there are some leaders that just pop off the page to you when you start studying about that. Right. Talk to us about the history of that.
Well, historically, African Americans had made many contributions. Unfortunately, as the Africans were forced to come to America and they became indentured servants, a lot of their contributions have gone unknown. Primarily, African Americans were creating a lot of technology in the areas, mostly in domestic, a lot of tools and those kind of things like that. Unfortunately, the slave owners were the ones who got credit for that. Specifically, if we go back even further than that, we can look at some of the contributions that some of the Egyptians have made, who were Africans. And they depicted a lot of their technology in the writings that were inside of the tombs. Right. And even when you think about the pyramids themselves, the construction of the pyramid was something that was an immaculate problem-solving endeavor. I mean, we didn't have Caterpillar during that particular time to be able to get these 2.5-ton blocks up.
Right.
It was over 2 million blocks to build those. Someone had to design, someone had to plan, someone had to create the engineering feat to actually do that. And so there were Africans who did that. And I even venture out to say some of the stuff that I used to teach initially used to be descriptive geometry, where we determined the distance between lines and planes in space. I think descriptive geometry may have been one of the techniques that they used in order to determine where those big stones would go. Okay.
So you go all the way back to there, and we look. You go forward, and you look, and like the first home furnaces, even the Xbox games consoles that we play, that kids play with today, and you look at the space program. So many contributions there. Exactly,
and even 3D glasses, if you want to look real recently. And there are some things that were kind of what I call the ironic inventions of African Americans, such as the golf tee. African American created golf tee, but yet African Americans were not allowed to be on the golf course unless they were caddies or had some kind of service responsibility. And also the automatic toilet flusher. Right. You know, we had separate bathrooms, but yet an African American created the automatic flusher. And I oftentimes think if we didn't exist and created those technologies, how would life be? How would we be hitting the golf ball from the start? How would we be, going to the bathroom, those kind of things like that. So there's a lot of things that we typically take for granted. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, a lot of the technologies that African Americans created, we didn't get the recognition.
When you're talking to your students, what message for Black History Month, what do you talk to students about, and what message do you try to get across to them?
I want students to know that we've come from a very rich heritage.
Right.
Oftentimes when you think of African Americans, what we see on TV and sometimes what we read in books are very negative. And oftentimes students of color have a tendency to want to disassociate themselves with that. And so I want students to recognize the fact that we come from a very rich history. We will continue to make strides in the contributions that we make. And oftentimes we need to, I want to challenge our students to read multiple sources, because oftentimes, history is just that, it's someone's story of their account of what happened, which from the African American perspective is not always accurate. So Chris, if I were to ask you who invented the cotton gin, you probably would say Eli Whitney, right? That's what's published in the books. But Eli Whitney was he's a New Englander who moved to Georgia to kind of go to law school and work on a plantation. While he was there, he saw slaves actually separating the cotton fibers from the seeds. And so that little process, was probably the first cotton gin, if you will, which was a process to separate the fibers from the seed. And so he received credit for that. And so history books will reflect that, but it won't reflect the history and the origin of that.
So fascinating. I wish we had more time to sit here and talk. Dr. Keith Johnson, thank you so much for stopping by today. And we want to remind everyone we have a very special program coming up next week on WJHL, Tri-Cities Hidden History, Tuesday, February 20th at 10:30 a.m. Please make time to check out that program.